say I am definitely incredibly proud of how far we've come on that side of the business in particular, because it is so complex. Because it's not just participating or communicating with customers on those platforms, but it's now the content, as you know better than most, that is also very specific to the platform. There's no more of this like, let's create a video. Anyway, it's not like that anymore. So I think to be able to engage and still feel like it's authentic, if your team is recognizing that, it is credit to the team.
Welcome to the Jason and Scot Show, your source for the latest news and trends in the e-commerce industry. Featuring host Jason Retail Geek Goldberg, Chief Commerce Strategy Officer of Publicis, and Scot Wingo, co-founder and CEO of ReFiBuy. Here are...
Welcome to the Jason and Scot Show. I'm your host, Jason Retail Geek Goldberg, and as usual, I'm here with your co-host, Scot Wingo.
Hey, Jason, and welcome back, Jason and Scot Show listeners. We are coming live from NRF Nexus, and we've been, what we do is we go and we befriend people up the cocktail area, and then we drag them in and make them do a podcast. And we were fortunate to stumble upon Josh Krepon. He is the president and U.S. D2C and Global Digital at Steve Madden. And we, in the green room, we determined he has more words in his title than Jason. So, congratulations.
With room for more.
Yeah.
So
the business cards, you can always make the font smaller.
I'm gonna workshop that later. And let's not pretend you just befriended me. I mean, we go back a bit.
Yeah,
we go back a bit.
Makes it sound more dramatic.
Yeah,
They just
maybe-
plucked someone out of the audience.
Well, it may be true that we waylaid you. It was not at the bar. We waylaid you on the way to the pickleball court.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, thank God it rained, or else.
Yes, I know. Actually, the timing was perfect. Yeah.
Well, Josh, we're super happy to have you on the show. A tradition we always have with guests is to start with a little bit of a background. I know you have an interesting tour of some really interesting brands. So what? Give us the elevator pitch of how Josh got here.
Yeah, I have worked with a lot of great brands. I moved to New York in 2005. So Paul Zengel, I'm sure you guys know him. He was my first boss at Ralph Lauren. So that was probably early 2006, working on their interactive creative group or something, I believe they called it at the time. And had no intention of going into retail. I had moved to New York or fashion for that matter. And I met Paul and I was like, wow, this would be a great boss. And we are still friends to this day. And I spent several years there. I went to Victoria's Secret from there, also working on the internet side of things, in addition to their digital fashion show, which those were interesting times. I guess we don't need to get into that, but you probably know some of the stories.
Just had them on earlier. Fashion show's back, bigger than ever.
I know they're having a nice moment. Yeah. So it's quick side note, which is funny. Has one of the folks on the team here was mentioning to me. He was like, "Why do I know your name? Like we hadn't met before." And he was like, "Oh, I know. It's because your name is still tied to the app developer account at Victoria's Secret, and I was there in 2009." And I was like, that about sums it up. So from there, I went to Tory Burch and spent a few years there on a nice rocket ship run, and then went to Haan for 6+ years, and then finally with Madden, I've been there for about the last 5.5, almost 6 years. So 20 years in total in the retail world. So I am a retailer now.
Before that, not a liquor retail.
No, I was I worked for a company in D.C. That was acquired by Gartner later in life, but I was doing web-related things.
Do you have any fun Ralph or David stories that are available for public consumption?
Ralph was an interesting place. I think it was.
Still is.
Yes, I mean, it was very important in terms of what you were wearing would determine whether you were in the meetings. So, it really, you would just wait to see if you got the call and maybe a little bit of an up and down. Yeah, your outfit's good enough for the day. And then my one funny story when I was at Tory is I walked in one day and I sort of did a double take to the guy that was like sitting in a chair in the lobby. And I was like, that's Kanye West. And he was just like sitting there by himself, like waiting for Tory to come by. And this was when he was like going into fashion, and I think he was asking her for help, or I think she did help.
Did she help invent the leather jogger pants with him?
Perhaps, I don't know. That's maybe a different story. Well, and I've spent this time with founder companies. I mean, between Ralph, Tory, and Steve. I mean, Steve, not everybody knows he's still very involved in the business. And it's just, I think also once you learn how to adapt to those environments, I think it does help you as you sort of go through your career journey. Somehow, maybe I'm like a moth to the light of just like, oh, I know how to work within this construct of founder-led businesses, and but it's not also for everyone.
Yeah, and I was going to say, my impression is they're not just founder-named businesses; they're founder-led businesses where founders continue to be active.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Steve is, his name is obviously on the brand, and yes, we do own other brands, but he, that's what he lives and breathes every day.
So one of the things that's interesting to me is, when we all started our digital careers, digital was a bolt-on, right? And maybe originally it was even a separate legal entity that ran the e-commerce side, and then it was for sure a siloed P&L. But the number of words in your title aside, it feels like you have a very unified P&L. And so I'm curious, from that seat, like, I would hope that it makes a lot of things easier, and it makes it more organic to act in the overall company's best interest.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the longer that you spend in the operator side of things and with different companies, not every company obviously operates in the same manner. I do think my role has migrated a bit or my remit's changed a bit since I started, whereby I do oversee stores and e-commerce, and I think that sort of vertical alignment, I think, is hugely powerful in this environment, and definitely not true where you're still talking to companies that don't look at marketing, as the same team. They don't look at the P&L as the same team within stores, e-com, or otherwise. So I do think it helps us make decisions faster. I think it certainly helps from an alignment perspective. So I realize that it's like a grateful thing to have that structure, because it's not true everywhere.
I guess the downside of that, though, is I do feel bad for your digital team that, like, they can't pull the wool over the boss's eyes.
Yeah.
I worked for a lot of bosses that, like, didn't understand any digital KPIs, so it kind of made things easier.
Well, and also the other side to that is coming from the digital world and going into stores. I don't know that it works both ways, and so in some ways it enables our digital and our e-com team to probably be more empowered, because I know that job, and I think it's just like, well, here you go, you do your thing. Where I'm over here learning a lot about stores and finding about all these like amazing things that I've been indirectly involved with in my past, but now directly involved with. It's definitely very high maintenance.
Are you all about revenue per square foot now?
I can do all the metrics. I got them all.
Let's start with give us a little background.
Yeah, so Steve Madden, the brand, started in 1990. We have an office in Long Island City, New York, which is not actually Long Island City. It's more of like Sunnyside, Woodside, Queens, for anybody that knows like the geography of the 5 boroughs. And there's a little bit of like superstition to like, we're just not leaving. Like it's like we're now a $3 billion company, and like that, and there's always some superstition involved, I think, in retail, and we have broken down walls, put up walls, created offices, torn down. I mean, it's like the space.
Do you own the building, or
we don't? No,
so that's a lot of pressure on the guy that's got to renew that lease.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, well, you just do as you please. We have a factory in our office, which a lot of people also don't know. We produce shoes, samples. If it's for shoe shows, if it's for just reading, reacting, and moving really quickly, we have an actual factory in our office, which I think is a really unique part of what makes us a special company.
This prompts a side question. Have you gone to the factory and tried to stitch a pair of shoes yourself yet?
I have not, no, but little side note, one advantage to the factory is my oldest daughter has been through a bat mitzvah, and my younger one is still on the way. And we did put together shoes for her that we had. The sock liner on the inside had her bat mitzvah date on it and her name in the other shoe. So that was like a nice perk where it's like I could show you the pictures. Cool. It was like really cool, and she still has them. They don't fit anymore. And then through that time, we have acquired other brands. We own, I'll talk about the most recent story, but we own Dolce Vita, which is a little higher price pointed women's shoes and some accessories. Betsey Johnson has been around for a long time. She's still in the mix and in the picture and living her best life. We've got, and then from there, it's some smaller brands. We have Blondo is one. It's a Canadian waterproof brand. ATM Collection, which is a premium apparel brand. And then Geiger was our largest acquisition. I think it closed last May. They're based in London, predominantly accessories, handbags, and also footwear, but a lot of really nice adjacencies. What we do well, and we have amazing positioning across like the wholesale accounts where you can go in a wholesale, like into Dillard's, and it's like you got Steve Madden, you got Dolce Vita, you got Betsey Johnson, now you have Geiger. I mean, it's like you're looking at the floor, and I'm like, we got a good handle on this. So it's fun. It's like, I can sort of, pick and choose, play around, like test and learn, whatever it is across the portfolio, and I actually, it was one of the things that attracted me.
Lots of different, from a digital perspective, different audiences.
It is. It's different customers, it's different audiences, it's different. There's different needs. It's also makes it at times, but it's when you think about resources and how you staff against that. But it does help us to play around a bit.
And then in terms of go to market, all of those brands are sold through wholesale. So you mentioned Dillard's. I think you have a partnership with Macy's. Some other accounts, but then you also have a very robust D2C business. And is the D2C like digital and some flagships? Is there
like on the store side?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have in the U.S. we've got around 100 stores, which, as I mentioned, is part of my responsibility. So inventory management, buying, planning, all of that sits within our org. As does marketing. So again, like the kind of vertically integrated aspect of like we are buying for retail and e-com, or we're buying for our outlet stores, or the other brands which don't have much of a store footprint, but it's still a coordinated effort. And then you're looking at it in the context of what the wholesale assortments are. But yeah, we're managing.
One of the things I promised to ask you is my social team uses you guys as an example a lot. Like they feel like you guys are very good at monitoring the organic socials and like responding appropriately on the brand's behalf. And so they both kind of use you an example of what we call multi-tier social, where you partner with some pretty famous personalities and have these sponsored things. You also like have a robust micro-influencer program, and it seems like the brand has its own good voice on social. So you kind of touch all the bases. And so I'm assuming you're going to tell me someone more competent than you runs that.
Well, I would say I am definitely incredibly proud of how far we've come on that side of the business in particular, because it is so complex. Because it's not just participating or communicating with customers on those platforms, but it's now the content, as you know better than most, that is also very specific to the platform. That there's no more of this like, let's create a video and we're going to put it on YouTube and Meta and on Google, and then we're going to put YouTube. You got it. But anyway, it's not like that anymore. So I think to be able to engage and still feel like it's authentic, if your team is recognizing that, it is credit to the team. Yeah, I think it was actually. Yeah, that's a good question. I think when I joined, it was still like influencer, good or bad. Like
how do we control them?
Yeah, and how do you lose? How can you use influencers to not lose control of your brand? And now
it's not brand safe.
Yeah. Now imagine having that conversation. It's very different. But some of it is just what's the demographic of your brand, what's appropriate. I mean, there are influencers at every level of brand, right? I mean, from Walmart, their spokespeople we've talked about, to like who we choose to work with, whether it's festival or mother-daughter or whatever. There's just so many different layers to this. So yeah, it was new since I think I joined, and it's only gotten more. It's like robust and it's bigger, and every year it seems.
And I would assume like TikTok wasn't even very relevant when you started, and now of course.
Yeah, I mean that was a COVID thing, and we didn't. I mean, we did dances, right? And that was TikTok.
Remind me, do you do any transactions on TikTok? Do you guys?
We're on TikTok Shop.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it's the same thing. It's a growing business. I think it's something we talk about, if not daily, certainly weekly. I think it's, there's certainly companies out there that are getting a lot of press for the level of volume. I think it's always this sort of careful throttling of like how big is big, similar to like what we were talked about in Amazon in the days of just like, if you want it to be big, you can make it big. TikTok, I think, is sort of heading down that path where it just seems to be growing at a very rapid clip. And I think if you want to make it big, I mean, again, right price points, you can grow it.
I've been having a lot of interesting conversations with brands that are blowing up on TikTok. Like, as a retailer, if you just look at their GMV, they're super significant. They're like fastest growing retailer ever. They're like the 4th largest e-commerce site in the world now. And so in a lot of demographics and in your categories, like, there's a lot of importance. A lot of people are discovering product there, right? And it's nice that you can sell stuff there and generate some revenue. Most brands and most products I talk to struggle to achieve profitability on the platform, both because people tend to discover one SKU and buy a single SKU. Often you're paying a commission to a creator. It's not the cheapest platform in the whole world. And so you add all that up, and even though it's a revenue stream in the same way that we might look at Amazon revenue or Macy's revenue, I think at the end of the day, it really is more a discovery platform. So more recently, I've talked to brands that try to sell stuff on TikTok Shop, but their inventory planning is get people that discovered on TikTok Shop and then load up the inventory either on D2C or Amazon or wherever else. You see, when you make something explode on TikTok Shop, do you see those spikes on your other points of distribution?
I mean, there's 2 elements I think that are worth considering on the TikTok piece specifically. The first is the profit, right? So there used to always be this not always, but there was this idea of in e-com, if you had AOVs under $50, you probably aren't making money. And then when you take TikTok, which does tend to gravitate towards lower price points with the fees and everything else, you're like, oof, that's a tough place to make money. And then the second thing is you don't, just like in the Amazon, you don't own the customer. So you're losing that relationship that I think if you look at where the transfer of that behavior is going, if it's from your .com to TikTok or to Amazon, there is that sort of customer. And is there a flywheel where that person is coming back to your .com? We're still working through that. But so yeah, I think the discovery piece is probably like the best angle depending on your price points. I think we've proven that we can sell higher price points on TikTok, which I do think helps us and sell full price. But not every brand, I think, can say that. And I think
that's the exception.
There is a correlation, I think, to like how hot your brand is and can you sell full price and can you sell at higher prices? Because obviously, if you're in beauty or if you're in just anything that's not a considered purchase, I mean, it's the race to the bottom. So yeah, I understand the element. It's really hard to buy and plan to viral products. Yeah. Like you have to comp it. There's like you're not like, oh, this product's gonna be viral now. Like let's buy appropriately. Although those conversations do have, you'd be like, sure. That's not how it works.
We're just post World Cup, and like during this World Cup, like the one thing you could not buy was a U.S. national team jersey because like the producers of those products like wildly underestimated.
Yeah, I had to buy my USA hat here just. Well, I need to get some merch out of this.
Yeah,
this is,
I like flying the colors.
Yeah.
You probably know I talk to a lot of retailers and brands about trends, right? And your industry has been particularly hard to talk about because feel like there's so much whiplash. There's so much up and down. Like it's COVID was a headwind for apparel. Now it's a tailwind. This year, overall, on average, apparel is one of the categories that's outperforming the industry. But when I look at that, if I double click on that, there's very clear winners and losers, right? So there's some retailers, some brands that are doing really well. There are others that are doing poorly, and
do you consider footwear as part of that, or do you apparel, footwear, or apparel?
No, I'm bundling, which is probably fair.
He uses the census data, so it bundles.
The data sets that I'm most talking about are harder to disaggregate footwear. So there's a lot of that, and then the conversation I most have in apparel and footwear in particular, that's super complicated right now, is the tariffs, right? Because they're very hard to. There's a lack of certainty. Like they come, they go, they're higher, they're lower. I feel like I've heard you guys on earnings calls talking about the challenge of chasing that, and I'm just like, is that still a thing? Has it settled down? Like, is it difficult? Like, I'm sitting here going, oh man, how does Josh know what marketing spend to do if he doesn't know what's going to happen with all those things? And yeah.
Well, it goes back to the last comment about, well, there's always a breakdown of what you can pass through to a customer versus what you have to take. You already have to take your medicine and then obviously also control and or cut costs. So I would say, again, publicly, we've done all of those things. Now, granted, the refund piece has come through for the illegal tariffs. I don't know in the current environment that we're in today how these latest things are going to play out legally. But again, if your brand is having a good moment, as you said, there's winners and losers, and I would say we've been a winner in this scenario from a consumer perspective, knock on wood. And a lot of that is because, back to the trends, like dresses, we're in a dress inning right now where, and that works really well for our brand. We're the best at chasing trends. That works really well for our brand. So even if you are looking at it from, what are the impacts of the tariffs specifically, which let's all remind ourselves, 2025 was terrible. Like it was not, there weren't any companies that were like, yeah, we're like, this is totally fine. Like we got this.
Yeah.
It was hard for everybody. And we're obviously not out of the woods yet because, the government is very unpredictable. So I would just tell you it is like a constant conversation of how that affects the IMUs and how we're pricing our goods and what are the other costs that we have to be considerate of. But we're, after that initial scare of like from April of last year until, because we moved so fast on product, I think we were affected probably sooner than most when I think some of that, the pricing pressure and everything was coming through. I think if you see the numbers, it was probably like last fall holiday. We were learning well before that. So the good news is like we figured out how to work really quickly and we're pretty well positioned to just like take it as it comes. And it's like that classic, like, well, control what you can control. And that's, if you don't, then you're spinning out.
Yeah. And I would assume your experience in the uncertainty of trends like help prepare you for the uncertainty of tariffs.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, if you don't know how to move fast, it's like, yeah. And also, by the way, some of the companies that were slow also benefited in some regards because a lot of that change, it was like China's a great example, right? Like everybody was like, all right, we got to rush out of China, and that was the big story. And then all of a sudden, China looks more attractive than some of the other countries. And now you're looking at countries like Brazil, where it's very difficult, obviously.
This week.
And China is like, well, that looks pretty good. And again, I'm not just on behalf of our company. It's just in general, it's like, it's just, sometimes it doesn't actually pay for everyone to go at 100 miles an hour.
I think one of the keynotes here was, speed's important, but direction's even more important.
So in your role, as you look at kind of this year, what are some of the big strategic initiatives? And we can also, I don't know how you guys, I know in your world you're planning fashion seasons into next year, but whatever period of time you want to look at, just like what are just so folks can get an idea of like what is important to someone managing a business like this?
It's going to vary across stores to e-com. I mean, maybe we can focus most of this on some of the e-com sides. Certainly happy to nerd out on the Agentic piece. I mean, we're on it.
Is that a thing?
Jason likes to see how long we can go without doing it. Give me a hard time.
I'd probably give you some credit for helping us along that journey, and I will. But it's we raised our hand. And we're like, we think this is a thing, and we want to be on it. So, and it's also like there's like selfishly, it's just kind of fun. Like there's we were sort of in a lull in terms of like shiny objects, I would say, for like outside of like TikTok. It was like there really hasn't been a whole lot over the last and COVID probably set some of that back. But it's like, so this is something that's like, it's new. There's a lot of energy around it. And like, yes, there's a lot of press. Yes, but it's also like a material thing. So we are spending time on that. We just launched like just this week on DoorDash for two of our brands, for Madden and Dolce Vita. So that's an interesting sort of omni-channel. Like, is this sort of like demand aspect of, if you're at a conference is one example that we've used in the past of like, and you don't have whatever shoes, you can DoorDash. So, and then that's like, I kind of love that story of like, there's interesting ways to show up now as a brand.
I actually had that happen to me where I opened up my suitcase and my dress shoes weren't in there, and I was like, ugh, I had to.
That's a great story. I can't take credit for that one. Colleen and on my team came. It's like these are real world examples where, and so I'm super curious to see how that plays out.
We should say the Google earnings for yesterday. You guys got a shout out.
Yes, that was proud moment, workplace moment for me. We did have a little bit of a heads up there, and so I ran back to my hotel room yesterday after the sessions, and I was like. And the meeting was, I didn't realize their earnings were like 2 hours long.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like ours are like 45 minutes, theirs are.
And that feels long already, but.
So I was like, oh, okay, I need to like rewind. And I was on the live YouTube and I'm like listening for our brand. And it was like, and I heard, I was like, yes, this is like, and I'm like trying to do high fives in my hotel room with just me. But I just thought that was like really cool.
The listeners that won't actually watch the Google earnings, that it was in reference to your adoption of universal checkout. Right?
Yeah, so they were sort of going through all of their hot points on commerce, and UCP is the big one for them, of course, and in partnership with Shopify. And so yeah, they were mentioning brands that were live today on UCP. Target was the other one, Steve Madden. So it's like a $4 trillion plus company giving us a shout out. So I was
congrats, that's awesome.
Well earned.
There should be a plaque.
Yeah.
Right? Like, is there like, do they?
If you get like 1 million followers, they give you like a gold YouTube button. So they should give you like a gold earnings button.
Shopify has like they have trophies too when you do a certain number of orders. So it's like, I feel like, I don't know. Maybe your connects at Google could.
Yeah.
You report directly to Steve, or whoever you report to should get a.
I did
a regular reminder that
I do report to the CEO, who's not Steve, but his yes, I gave him a heads up. He was pretty excited. I texted him and I was like, we got the mention.
That's great. What other than Agentic Commerce, what else is big going on?
Well, let's see. I mean, we are always testing around on the AI side of things, of course. How could we not? On the marketing side, it's a lot of emphasis on incrementality and diversification of media and platforms, which we sort of talked about earlier. That's a big focus. Also, just the fun things like driving more profit and margin expansion, all those things of like, is it through cost? Yeah. So we have to, especially after last year, it's like that is always at the top of the list.
It enables a lot of good stuff.
It does. Yeah, it's important.
I know from my daughter, back to school is big with you guys, so she's been shopping your stuff pretty hard here. And then
actually, can we just talk about that for a second? Because I think it was your daughter that wrote the guest post on your Substack.
Yeah. Best influencer.
I love that actually, because I am so obsessed and fascinated with consumer behavior changes and shifts, and this concept of like chat now, like the quick background was she was explaining how she searches for discovery and things, and they call it chat, when they're going to ChatGPT, and
They'll have personalities. They talk to it a lot more.
yeah, and I just think that is, is it driving the business today? No, but like just how that starts and then sort of reaches this like escape velocity of how people. I mean, I'm just super fascinated. And if she wants Steve Madden through chat, like I think that's even better because we're showing up. I don't know if you know this, but we're showing up in Discovery.
Yeah, you were there. Yeah. Sadly, the ones that so she found this. So she's in a sorority, and they have to do this. Last year, she was on the being recruited side. Now she's recruitment.
Okay.
They give them this list of it's like 10 days, 3 days, like a new outfit. Great for you guys. It's bad for the parents.
That is good. That is good for us. Yeah.
And she found a video where she went through and said what you want to wear on each day, and a lot of them were Steve Madden's, but it was like a little bit of an older one, so it was hard to. But then she discovered TikTok has this, and it would suggest alternatives. It was actually pretty product aware. Then she's like, "You've got to write about this." And I was like, "I really don't want to have TikTok on my phone and get addicted to it." So she's like, "I'll do a guest post." It's like, sure.
Is it Taco? Is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Taco
Is
or
it how?
Taco.
Yeah.
Yeah. They also do. They have an agent for vendors. So there's this Symphony is like the ad agent for, when you buy TikTok ads. I don't know how they pronounce it, Taco or Taco.
I thought Taco was already taken.
I see what you did right there.
Yeah, it's a little too political for that. No.
And it's funny. I was talking to Colleen, and she said it's only a couple users, like a very small percent of users, see it. And when you guys have talked to TikTok,
See what?
see this taco.
Oh, okay.
How we say this?
Yeah.
They're basically it's a little agentic commerce. I mean, it's got a broader scope, but at the end of the day, it will recommend products and talk about availability. She said that it's pretty limited, and I guess we're just going to happen to be into the test or something.
Well, that's another thing that I'm just interested again as like a curious operator, but also as a consumer of what are the tools that consumers adopt to drive the discovery? Because discovery for the longest time has always been a problem for e-com in general.
It would have been stuck in filter nav forever.
Yeah, and it's like, and the paid ads and everything. It's not a great experience. So if it's like chat on site, or if it's chat through ChatGPT or through Gemini or through Taco or whatever, I think those are probably more. I would say more favored. I'd say to win in this scenario than like site chat. I think, but but the behavior is changing in terms of how people, and even through voice, right? It's not just you're not typing anymore because we don't want to type 35 words in a search query, right?
It's like 3.5 words in the Google.
That's easy to type, but yeah, when you're in like,
engine,
just give me the phone and the microphone, and I'll just
voice dictation has become
Yeah.
way more prominent.
Yeah, so it's really interesting.
I am curious. Scott's a little more well versed on your whole portfolio of AI initiatives than I am, but obviously, like you guys are in discovery, so you're in UCP. I think you're in the beta for Universal Cart too, right? So people can conduct transactions. Are there any like owned touch points where you're finding AI is also interesting? Like, would customers use AI for foot fitment or returns abatement or any or on-site search or any of those sorts of things, or are those the lower priority for you?
That's an interesting one too, because I mean those tools have existed for a while. So is it a matter of these partners sort of reframing their business model to AI?
Would anyone just put AI on the name?
I seriously doubt it. I can't imagine that.
No,
Yeah.
no, I think that'd be silly.
Yeah. So, there's always, this is maybe a good conversation too, because in all, assessing vendors specifically for as long as I've been doing it, it was always, there's always like two things that were working in my head. One is I want to see the logos of who you work with already. And two, how long have you been working? Or like, how long have you been in business? Well, the second one now is almost in some ways like an issue, right? It's like to your question
the
of like,
you used to want is exactly the answer.
what's happening, like what AI is working on site. I mean, I'm now drawn to companies that have been created in the last year or two. And because that's modern technology, there's modern use cases. You're not working with now. It's crazy because if you were a 6-year-old company that started, over COVID, you're using legacy tools and you're probably having to reinvent yourself. So I as the operator, sort of business owner, decision maker, it's a very weird time, I would say, in terms of just assessing, but that's where pilots really come in. You can't commit, obviously, the contract durations of it, you can't do anything long term anymore, but also just we've got to do pilots here because you might be brand new, but I've got to be able to see whether that's.
I definitely want to double click on that, but I hate giving Scot credit for anything, but I do have to point out Scot actually caused a kerfuffle on the interweb.
Ooh.
When he shared the POV that probably can't call yourself a native AI company if you're 10 years old.
You can't.
And it's funny, we go to shows and they'll throw, we do this, which is their old mission, and they'll throw on the end, and Agentic. It's we're helping bring products to humans and making them more personalized and Agentic. Yeah.
I mean, there's companies that have reinvented themselves. I think of someone like a Yacht, they have reinvented themselves, but it's very hard to, and I have examples that I won't name that we work with that, I mean, we have made decisions that it's probably of our, in our best interest to move on because they haven't been able to modernize within that 2-year time frame because it's hugely relevant right now.
We had Jason and I know a very nice lady that was looking for a marketing job, and she during her interview process she would ask the mostly at vendor type folks in our world, and then she would ask, "What do you think about agentic commerce?" And many of them kind of said it was a fad and things like that. And because she's such a big listener to my part of the show,
yes, so I've heard. She may or may not be related to me.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard too because anytime there's a new shiny object, and then it's just the entrepreneurs and the venture just circles around like sharks, right? It's just so it is sometimes hard to distinguish of what is, again, if you're in my seat of what is worth spending some energy and resources. Fortunately, there's not a big capital investment because these days you can try things with very little cost. But it's Apple Pay was another one. Should we invest in this or do we wait? Do we sit on the sidelines a bit until there's adoption? There's always been these moments in time where there's something shiny, and you have to figure out again from my seat, do we spend some energy and resources in this, or do we just sit on the sidelines? And we're in another one of those moments with Agentic where it's hard to get information, right? The information of bot traffic, human traffic from agents is a really interesting one for me. Of it's up triple digits percentages. I'm oh.
Small numbers are easy to grow fast.
We don't even have great analytics on this yet. So I think even on the Shopify side, which again we're fortunate to have them as a partner because that we wouldn't be where we are today without their efforts in this space. And they've just released their dashboard of agentic commerce and across the 4. They call it 4. It's the 3 main ones, and then they've added their own shop, which makes our volume look much better when you're including shop. And they're I don't know if that's agentic or not, but I sort of see their perspective.
I did want to double click on that vendor selection comment you made earlier for just 1 second. In the old world, and we all lived through this. You needed a new platform, right? You'd go to Gardner or Forrester and you'd get some wave, and then you'd do an in-house shootout, and it might take 6 months, right? And then you'd pick what you thought was going to fit your needs best, and then you'd sign some absurd long-term contract. Our friend Mark Rubin at GSI used to get these 20-year contracts, right? And I think about the world right now and how fast this is all changing. And if you did any of those steps, you'd be too late.
How do you think procurement departments are feeling? And they're just what do we do? It's the RFP process. If it's not being rewritten, it probably should be because nowadays it's you pick up a phone and it's there's always the strong network of our community of just being able to have that conversation, of course, but that's the speed now, right? Of just all right, well, who's doing what and what's working, what's not working. But it's very often just a phone call of just like, well, what are you using? Or I still do rely on the logos a lot, even though I know I just made a comment about like the earlier the better. But as you know, Scott, like you want to bring people on if it's through design partnerships or pilots or what have you, because there is a ripple effect to that, obviously, of the network.
Any other big initiatives you want to talk about?
Pickleball shoes? Are you guys launching on pickleball shoes?
No. We'll stick to the
So
heels.
little known fact, but Scott's company Refi Buy was really largely founded on the premise of picking the best pickleball paddle.
Is that right? Yeah. Well, I did see that in some of your shopping.
Kind of thinking like, what would be a really hard? I was going to challenge the tech guys, and I was like, I want something that has like some really gnarly variations. And then I started looking at pickleball paddles, and it's tricky because most of the
You had
companies-
like 20 of them show up at your house, and you're just like,
No,
"Well,
I was just like I was shopping, and I was like, it was janky experience buying them, and I was like, this is perfect because this is pretty messed up. And a lot of the vendors are because pickleball is actually relatively new in its its rise. There's some OGs, but there's like most of the vendors are new, so there's no standardization of anything.
yeah,
So it's got a fair amount of chaos to it. I was like, if we can do that, then we can probably handle it.
What's your assessment of because it is so gnarly? Like we've talked about, like commerce is gnarly, and that's why the ChatGPT story of commerce and checkout of like, okay, maybe this isn't the direction that we need to go in, but like on a I don't know scale 1 to 10, like where do you think we are in terms of like the commerce aspect of like you've gone through so many different examples. I guess now I'm asking the question, but like. No, I don't know that anyone's closer to this than you are. So, like, where do you think we are in that journey?
With agentic commerce
Yeah.
documents, if you think about so the Amazon marketplace is probably the litmus test, and maybe TikTok kind of where they are as far as proving out you can build a $10 billion to $100 billion market, new channel for selling things. I think Universal Cart is getting there. It's probably 2 steps away, and then in the Amazon era, the steps were every 18 months.
Mhm.
But Google is like they are really leaning in very hard. Number one question I get is, Google tried this 6 times in the marketplace era and it never took root. Well, you didn't have on the conference calls that we're talking about it, right? So
Mhm.
so that's got CEO and IR level, So up and down the Google org, they have religion about this.
Yeah, and I have to think on that the exit velocity comes when they open up the payments. Like the Google Pay, I think it's just not widely.
It's a limiter.
It's not been widely adopted. So I think once you have the trust that exists in an Apple Pay or something, or even just your own credit, I mean, that's I think where you start to see that like go from an 8 to a 10 or whatever the.
I don't have any inside information, but you've been in the industry long enough to know that there's going to be summer's kind of quiet, but everyone's building aggressively. And I think from kind of August 15 to 11/1, it's going to be crazy. The amount of stuff that comes out. It's going to be like a frenzy of activity.
I look forward to the many posts.
I'm somewhat of 2 minds because I feel like there's where are we on the capabilities curve, right? And Scott actually has this good 4-level framework of capabilities at 5, and everyone's kind of hovering between 2 and 3, right? Is that fair characterization? And I totally subscribe to that. I think that's valid. And the pace of change is so crazy. My new example in the pace of change is like about a week and a half ago, OpenAI launched ads. I'm exaggerating. It was a little longer than that ago, and it was an absurd MVP. Like it was a really broken, deficient ad platform with $60 CPM. And then I blinked my eyes, and now they have a super robust market-leading ad platform that
It's got CPCs. You can upload a
Yeah.
data feed. They're getting to the point where you can bid by category. There's all kinds of.
So just how
Yeah,
fast they go from MVP to really mature, like we've never seen that before, right? So on the capability side, I think this is happening really fast. I kind of suspect that 10 years from now, when we all get together for the reunion and we're all successfully retired, right? And I'm hoping you invite us to the boat for the reunion. I think we're going to talk about.
He was pointing at Scott, not me. No,
Yeah, I'll take either of your boats. The only thing better than owning a boat is having a friend that has a boat.
Chicago has big lakes.
They do. They do. You could bring your boat here anytime.
You could get one.
But I kind of think we're going to look back and say, oh my God, that wasn't even the first. Like this changed and evolved and became so much more important in the consumers' lives that like all of these things that we're agonizing about now that are, super interesting and important. I have a feeling we're going to look back on it and, be able to chuckle a little.
Well, if there's one thing that we love to do in this industry, it's move the goalposts.
Yes.
So, I mean, we'll have no problem pushing that out depending on what changes. Like in my current state of like the sort of the growth trajectory of like the Agentic specifically, like I don't know if this like autonomous checkout is the end state. Like I just don't really see that as being this like, oh, here's the path that you're on and that's where it ends up. Now, obviously not for everything, but I just like that just doesn't feel like the right endpoint to me.
That way. It's going to be largely discovery for your type of product.
Yeah, and that to me is more interesting.
But I'm signing up when they offer just make the toilet paper magically show up.
But it's like, how come we couldn't do that?
We already do.
Yeah, but I think there's a big difference between.
What about the comeback of the button that you could push?
But here, all of those.
It was just before its time.
That absolutely could be true. I'll bet you by accident, all the devices in our home are going to have, intelligence, and so a lot of that does come back. I'll tell you what consumers universally love when they test is in-home delivery, right? And when you have in-home delivery, a dude is going in your pantry wearing a body cam, and guess what happens to that body cam? Like suddenly they know the inventory of everything in your pantry, right? And so you think about like subscription was interesting. We all thought subscription was going to put all these commodity categories out of business, and it kind of did for a week. Like there was a peak when everyone had to pay fortunes to Amazon Subscribe and Save, and then things totally died because subscription fatigue. Like we don't all consume these products in some super predictable way where stuff could just magically show up, and we all started feeling guilty when all the water filters piled up in our closet and we never changed the water filter on our pitcher, right? The potential of Agentic for some commodity items is it can know your real consumption through a variety of means, camera, sensor, whatever, just statistical data, and much more accurately have that stuff show up when you need it. And I think there are things in our life, we used to all have to work hard to pick our music, and some people are still music experts and love curating their own playlist, but the vast majority of us are just happy to say, play something interesting, Spotify, and if we're willing to do something for something so personal and taste-related as that, I have a feeling we're going to be pretty comfortable outsourcing the paper towel replenishment.
It's almost like, just to kind of bring it to a real-world example of like what we've been working on with you, Scott, is that, if you have like on the product catalog, like augmentation, like if you have a confidence level of whatever it is, 95%, then just push it through without human interaction, right? So if we have a 95% confidence level that you do need toilet paper, like it should just push through. And like it'd be interesting if you just had this list of things that you reorder that are commodities, and it's like, and then you can decide the ones that you want to get in the, to put a stop to, or the ones that are just like, yeah, like it's time for paper towels. Like, so I don't know, maybe there's something to that should just,
Well, Josh, I feel like we need a part 2 because I think we could go on and cover a bunch more stuff, but we've burned through our allotted time. I know you have a very important appointment on the pickleball court.
Sure. Yes. It's after hours, so yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If Josh's boss is watching,
This
it is currently 11:30 at night.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It was nice to spend this evening with you. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Josh, do you post frequently on any of the socials? Do you share some of your thoughts?
I don't really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Colleen does. So if you're interested in seeing what Steve Madden is doing, Colleen Waters.
Yeah. Our CMO and Colleen are I feel like they do a great job of touting all the things that were the amazing work of the team. So I can just sit back and like the post or maybe put in a snarky comment in the comments.
Occasionally share. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy
Thanks
day
for having
to come
me.
on.
And until next time, happy commercing.
You've been listening to The Jason and Scot Show. For all the latest news and trends on e-commerce and shopper marketing, subscribe to us in iTunes or visit jasonandscott.com.